Now I know you guys are just as excited as I am about this new chapter of Boruto. We have been introduced to a new realm of power, the plane of the gods. And today I'm going to be talking about how strong Shibai Otsutsuki is. So as you guys might know already, the chapter begins with Amado telling Naruto and Shikamaru about Daemon and Eida's abilities, such as Eida's clairvoyance and Daemon's attack reflection. The cyborg abilities, according to Amado at least, were extracted from this Otsutsuki god's DNA, but the god's name is Shibai Otsutsuki. And somehow Amado has come across his dead body, which is a bit of a coincidence. But what's even more concerning is, how did this god die? And we're about to find out. So when Amado introduces the lore of this god, we know he was capable of moving around and causing natural disasters. Amado describes Shibai as when he swung his arm, he created windstorms, and when he let out a scream, he would create thunderstorms. It's very similar lore to the 10 Tails from Naruto Shippuden. Anyway, long story short, all of the abilities that Amado created weren't actually made by him, but were power transferred from Shibai's corpse to the cyborgs. But it doesn't stop here. Amado describes Shibai's powers as shinjutsu, which quite literally means divine techniques, which is different to ninjutsu or senjutsu. He compares shinjutsu to divine miracles that are far superior to ordinary jutsu. In fact, all ninjutsu originates from shinjutsu. Ninjutsu is nothing but a pale imitation of shinjutsu, kind of like an object in comparison to its respective concept. Similar to how Plato conceptualized forms, but object is like an imitation of a concept. You can never truly fully grasp the concept, and in the same way, shinjutsu is far above any other ordinary jutsu. Like I said, it quite literally means godly techniques. This angers Shikamaru, but he has no choice but to accept all the information as fact. Shinjutsu doesn't need hand signs to activate. You don't really need to control the flow of energy to perform these miracles. The shinjutsu that Shibai has includes Eida's clairvoyance, meaning that he could see the past, future, and the present. Eida's infatuation abilities, which makes all other life forms other than Otsutsuki attracted to him. Daemon's reflection abilities, meaning that Shibai can reflect all harmful intent as long as he's touching somebody. The karma, meaning that he can pass on his compressed genetic information to other life forms and then reincarnate through them in the event that he dies. He had Code's claw marks, meaning that Shibai could transport anywhere he wanted. According to Momoshiki, who knows all known shinjutsu, Amado is telling the truth about everything he said, other than the fact that he lied about Shibai having Eida's infatuation ability, which is very suspicious, and I'll get into why he lied about that in particular at the end of the video. But with all of the confirmed shinjutsu abilities that Shibai has, this alone would make him extremely overpowered and almost unbeatable within the verse. But even then, it doesn't stop there, and this is where it's about to get really wild, so just bear with me. Now obviously this might confuse a lot of people, but I think it was a bit obvious what was being said at this point. Amado theorizes that Shibai purposely discarded his body, so he wasn't technically killed by somebody else, but it was a conscious decision that he made. But the question is why? When Amado is asked why, he says that Shibai had over millennia harvested an innumerable amount of chakra fruits across the universe and had reincarnated himself through other life forms via use of a karma so many times that he had apparently transcended life and death itself, therefore achieved godhood. This was a point he no longer needed to exist physically on a three-dimensional axis, so left his body behind. It sounds like he lost his physical body to essentially ascend to a higher dimensional plane. He ascended to a higher dimension and left his physical body in the third dimension. Shikamaru believes this is all in the realm of possibility, and then to confirm it, Momoshiki even goes out of his way to tell Boruto that all of it is true. He tells Boruto that Shibai most definitely transcended the normal universe to reach what he calls Kami no Jigen, which means God's dimension, which is a plane of existence that he's been monitoring for a very long time. Now the term used here is Jigen, which means mathematical dimension and is a scientific term, so Shibai reaching this higher dimension isn't just a different space like ones Kakashi or Kaguya have. Use a different term for that. For example, time, space, or dimension in kanji are called kukan or jikukan. It's really ever those two terms. So if the normal universe is fourth dimensional, considering it has 3 dimensions of space and this extra temporal dimension of time, Shibai transcending it would make him, technically speaking, 5th dimensional, explaining why he doesn't now need a body to exist within this realm. But if you want to stay on a safe side and lowball, then he's at least 4th dimensional because he's transcending the 3rd dimension, right? But in all honesty, 5th dimensional makes more sense for him, considering the fact that he's leaving this plane, which should be 4th dimensional, like I said, 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time, making him 5th dimensional. So we can use Versus Battle Wiki to kind of find out how strong this would make him. Now if you're gonna super lowball and say he's 4D for some reason, then that would make Shibai at least Universe Plus level. But like I said earlier, he's transcending the normal universe, right? We already know there's characters in Naruto who can create time spaces, so like 3 dimensions of space, an extra temporal dimension, which would make him higher dimensional anyway. But if you were to say that Shibai is 5th dimensional, he would be extra dimensional. And Versus Battle Wiki say, if you're anywhere between 5th or 6th dimensional, then you're low complex multiversal, so keep that in mind. So Shibai isn't anybody to be meddled with. He's most likely a multiversal being, whether way you look at it. And this is when you can kind of start moving on to the narrative stuff. Why has this happened? The inspiration for this god's power clearly comes from Samurai 8, which is Kishimoto's discontinued manga series in which a protagonist ascends to higher dimensions and dimensionality entirely at the end of a story. Now, all of this was bound to happen based on the fact that there's a lot of Buddhist referencing Kishimoto uses in general in both series. One particular concept that he really likes is the concept of nirvana, which is a transcendent state in which there is neither suffering, desire, nor sense of a self. And the subject is released from the effects of karma and the cycle of death and rebirth. It represents the final goal of Buddhism. Now, all this might actually seem pretty familiar. It seems to me that that's what Otsutsuki are trying to do. They're trying to escape life and death. They're trying to escape suffering, desire, and all of these things. Explaining why 6 Paths powers are so useless in Boruto against every Otsutsuki that we've seen. Explaining why Otsutsuki have transcended the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, surpassing Samsara, the Dharma wheel entirely. There's been Samurai 8 and Buddhist referencing for a minute. That's why Naruto Explained joked a while back that all 8 people who read Samurai 8 probably picked up on a couple of things. Now, what about the name Shibai? Did you know that Shibai means playing an act or a drama, which is synonymous with tricking? I think this could mean that Shibai is... I think this could mean a lot of things now. We know there's something odd going on with Amado, so what's his connection with Shibai? Like, how did he find his body? It could be the case that Shibai is Amado, or that he's Shibai's partner. Now, I say this because Amado's story could be a lie. We already know he's put elements of lies into it. And I say that he could be Shibai's inferior because when Sasuke travels to Ishiki's dimension, we see 2 destroyed slabs, Otsutsuki slabs. Now, who destroyed them? Why are they destroyed? They could belong to Amado and Shibai. Perhaps Amado destroyed the slabs because a hologram would have given away his identity to Sasuke. Could this mean that Amado is an Otsutsuki? It's definitely consistent with a few things. I have talked about this in the past, that Amado kind of speaks as if he's not human sometimes, and it's also consistent with his writing, because Amado's name is in reference to, in Japanese culture, the Amano Jaku, which tricks children into the safety of their homes via deception, and then turn around and take their skin after killing them. So this might seem oddly familiar. Keep in mind that Amado does have shutdown control over Kawaki and wants to use his body to revive his daughter. Now ultimately there's something fishy going on with Amado. When Mishiki even exposed him for lying about the Eida infatuation ability being Shinjutsu. So clearly Eida's infatuation ability is of his own creation and has some sort of ulterior motive. We know that the ability can manipulate your attraction and senses, so why would Amado lie about his origins if he doesn't intend to hide and use it on the Leaf Village? And that brings me on to my final thoughts. I think it should be pretty obvious that Otsutsuki are stronger than everybody thought for the most part. Now it could be the case that the weaker Otsutsuki are like 4th dimensional, the gods are 5th dimensional. So what does that mean now? That means there are most likely other Otsutsuki gods. So by Otsutsuki god I mean ones that have achieved godhood like Shibai, who exist on higher planes. Amado even explains that achieving godhood requires millennia of harvesting intensely, and most Otsutsuki are actually near that age, at least most that we've seen so far. Even Code aims to be a god, so we're definitely gonna get to see other gods, probably post time skip, but it might be earlier. And there is most certainly some sort of hierarchy between the gods. I don't think all gods are the same level. It could be dimensional tearing like I alluded to earlier, which means the more transcendent that you become via eating god fruits and karma could also decide and determine what dimension that you reside in. A lot of series are beginning to take that approach, especially ones that are inspired by science fiction, Buddhism, that kind of thing. So it might not be that far-fetched. Anyway, if you disagree, agree, voice your opinion on this new chapter, let me know what you think. Obviously there's still a lot of leeway and interpretation, and you can also check out my other videos as well if you want. I'll see you next time. Peace.